ideal, but that's okay. Hey everyone, so much for joining me today. I have an amazing guest. He has been raw for 33 years, Dr. Tim Trader. Hi, Tim. How are you doing today?
Hi, Jeanette. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so
Good.
much. It's a big honor for me to interview you because, there's not a lot of long-term raw vegans out there, or maybe there are, but, do you know a lot of, like in your real life, long-term raw vegans?
I have a few good friends that are,
Okay.
yes.
Yes. So first of all, I want to ask you, why did you choose to start this living foods lifestyle 33 years ago?
Okay, it's a bit of a story. So, I had asthma, allergies, and a bunch of other maladies that plagued me from childhood on. One of my friends called me a problem child when I was a kid because I had so much going on. And one thing led to another. And I was in Reno at the university there, and I started finding out, oh, there's a class about anatomy and physiology. I need to know about my body. And there's a class about biochemistry. Oh, that really sounds interesting. Let's take that. And one day I got called into the counselor's office. And he said, did you know that you've pretty much done the prerequisites from med school? I went, no, I had no idea. He said, you have to take these other courses here and do this. And we think we can get a scholarship for you. Oh, okay, great. Well, I ended up doing 2 years of med school and dropped out. I was also getting into very alternative stuff at the time because the medications weren't working. My asthma was not controlled. My allergies were going sky high out of the blue. So while I was in med school, I was also doing other things. So after med school, I went to naturopathy, did schooling there. Had time with several of the old stable naturopaths and alternative healers like Bernard Jensen and a few others. Stan Milstrom was a very big mentor. And I got out of naturopathic school and I still had my problems. I went, this doesn't work. So I said, okay, the one thing I really don't know about is nutrition. So I went to school for nutrition. And I was at the nutrition school, University of Texas in Austin. And I was coming up with, wait a minute. Fruits and vegetables are the healthiest things that we can eat. Okay. Why aren't we eating more of them? So I started looking into that. And there just wasn't the research back then. Then the school came to me and said, we have this guy who keeps bothering us. Can you talk to him? He wants us to prove his theories, and we're not going to prove his theories, but he keeps pestering us. And I said, okay, I'll talk to him. Well, this guy was T.C. Fry. And he showed me a few things, and then he sent me a box full of books and magazines and articles and stuff. He goes, read this. Well, one of the articles talked about a gal getting rid of her asthma. Wait a minute here. Wait a minute. This has got my attention. So I looked at that. I read some of the books. Some of the books that he included were Fit for Life and a few of the other old hygienic books. And I thought, this seems to work. Let's try this. So I eventually, it took me another year to really delve into it deeply. And that's right. So on September 6, 1990, I went completely wrong and I haven't looked back. Now, the follow-up to that is in October of 1990, I had my last asthma attack. My last asthma attack. It was very interesting because I didn't take any medication and I got through it. But when I was in med school, I had to visit the hospital, the emergency room. And one of my professors was working in the emergency room at the time because I had an asthma attack. I had to go in and get bronchial treatment and all that. And he said, you know, people like you, this severe of asthma, they don't live past 30. Well, I'm also 63 right now. I think maybe I've lived past 30. So I think it's worked very well. My allergies, there's an occasional allergy here and there. A couple of the nuts I have problems with, and I have never been able to utilize them. But everything else, when I was 18, my throat closed shut from eating watermelon. Thank goodness I had a very fast-acting father who knew what to do and took care of me. And I'm still here to say I'm here. But so one of the big tests was for me to eat watermelon. Well, the old hygienic idea is to eat melons alone. So I did. I kept eating, kept eating, kept eating. And sure enough, I didn't have a reaction. So a lot of my allergies, when I was 18, my allergist, I went to my allergist, said, I want to become vegetarian. He says, you can't. You're allergic to all the proteins. Well, in allergies, what you are allergic to is protein. And so I said, okay, I'll never be a vegetarian. Back then, about 1979, I don't think the word vegan was even used. So now I do very well. And I have no reason to go back to anything else but a fruit-based, all raw diet.
Wow. What do you think was the issue with the watermelon when you were 18? Why do you think that happened?
The thing was it was always a dessert in my family. So it was done after, I think probably I had a sandwich and some chips or something for lunch. And then I had some watermelon afterwards. And it was a combination. But also I mean, allergies can be really complicated. But some of that is that there's an intestinal situation where a whole protein is getting past the mucosal layer and into the bloodstream instead of being digested and broken down. And so something occurred to where I was putting things into my body that shouldn't have been there. And my digestive system had a lot of problems, obviously. But because of the allergies, nobody really noticed, including me.
Wow. Wow. I had a similar thing with apricots, Tim, where I broke out full hives. And so when I went raw, I was so scared to eat apricots. It took me a long time. Same thing. I can eat them, no problem.
Yeah.
Crazy, right? Okay. So now what is some advice that you would give to somebody who really wants to go raw? They know the benefits. They've, watched videos by you. They know all the benefits. They really want to, but they feel like they can't. They keep falling off and going back to eating cooked food. What is some advice that you would give to somebody who really, really wants it, but feels like it's impossible for them?
Wow. You're asking the tough questions. Yeah. This is really it for most people, it's hard to do 100% all the way straight off. For me, it took me 6 years to not have any cooked food. Now you have to realize in that 6 years, you probably could count my cooked meals on your hands and toes. But there's so many things going on here, social, trying to be out there and, somebody saying, well, just do this once. You don't know how many times I've gone to family gatherings, like at Thanksgiving or Christmas or something, and they say, but you can have this turkey this one time, can't you? It's not going to hurt you. Yeah, right. So we have a lot of social things. We have a situation where the taste is not quite there. You don't. We're so used to foods loaded with salt and the addictive patterns of fat and processed sugars that it causes problems and hardships. And then a lot of times, one thing a lot of people have said to me is that they used to use cooked food to numb out. And raw food doesn't do that. And number one, it doesn't have the dopamine excitatory things that you find in some cooked foods. And we all have heard about salt, sugar, and fat as things like addictive. Fat and sugar have been proven to be just as addictive as cocaine. You gotta get through this in a really hard situation, and it's not easy. Now, I gotta tell you that switching things over, it takes time. And you're going to fall off the wagon. It's going to happen. The big thing is that I see people doing is they beat up on themselves mentally. And they say, I didn't do it. I'm a bad person. This is really, come on, really and truly, this is something that's going to happen. You have got to take time to get through this. Addiction is something that you deal with quite a bit, Jeanette, and I applaud you for that, for being somebody that people can go to and say, we really need some help here. And one of the big things is having support. Back when I went raw, I was going to Texas, so I did have some support from Terry Fry and the Life Science group down there. But I was actually living in South Dakota, and there was no raw foods there, nothing. And it was kind of hard. The first year I went raw, I was up in the Black Hills of South Dakota, and everybody said, Oh, because I lost a ton of weight. I looked skinny. I had fasted several times. By the way, I never suggest fasting on your own. Please do it under medical supervision. But I fasted several times by myself. And I had lost so much weight. And this is in 1990, 91. And people said, Doc Tim has AIDS. And so everybody stayed away from me. So you have that other social thing that something's going on and they don't understand. If they talk to me, yeah. So there's so many things going on. And until you actually get to the original addiction, you never quite get through that. And you're going to say, what's the original condition? What's the original addiction? Our thoughts. When you go to a binge, you plan it. Oh, I'm going to treat myself to this. And it just big. Everybody I've ever talked to, when they really have a binge problem, they plan it. They say, oh, wouldn't it be nice? Or wouldn't this be really delicious? Or I need to treat myself. These are not treats. These are not rewards. They are pulling you back. Sometimes when people get really having a hard time with addiction, with getting off, I've actually recommended biofeedback. When you're all tense and anxious, you're more susceptible. I'm going to backtrack just a little bit here on that. When you're hungry, you're also susceptible. When you're hungry and you walk by the bakery, and that smell that you get by walking by the bakery makes you turn right into the bakery. And again, it's the thought, oh, wouldn't that be nice? Ooh, that's really luscious. Ooh, I gotta have that. Yeah. So for some people, I recommend biofeedback. It can be as simple as a relaxation biofeedback, or you could try mindfulness meditation, something to relax you, something to take care of the stress. Other times, well, a lot of times I find that people doing heart rate variability biofeedback really helps them. It helps not only with relaxation, but with the mind, being able to say, oh, I really don't want that. It would be nice, but what I think I'd rather have is something healthy, something delicious. Oh, wait a minute. I've got some dates. I'm going to have me a couple of dates and I'm going to take care of that. And you, okay, so you got a treat. I've had people say, you know what? If I can go raw for 1 week, I treat myself to a massage. Oh, that really works. So you have that treat, you have the pleasurable feeling. Okay, one's dopamine, the other one's oxytocin. Okay. But then sometimes with a really, really hardcore addiction people, I recommend neurofeedback. And it's lengthy and it's work. All biofeedbacks work, but so is all stress reduction work. And it really does help. So I think that's a bit in a condensed manner. So
Yeah, that was really valuable. Wow, thank you so much. I I think that's really great. Treating yourself to things that don't hurt you and don't make you feel guilty and don't make you feel like affect your self-esteem. And you answered, so many questions I had. So thank you. I was going to ask a
Good.
few more. So we have a lot of questions from the audience. I want to get to them because I really appreciate everybody that's here watching. Thank you so, so much. So the first question, Shireen, what does a day of eating look like for you, Dr. Tim? What does a day of eating look like for you right now?
Please understand about what I do may not be right for you. That's something that you have to find out for you. But I'm pretty simple. Mornings, breakfast is kind of late usually for me. I'm not hungry until a little bit later, and I try to earn my meals. So I've already done some calisthenics in the morning, and I'll have a breakfast of fruit. What everybody says, oh, I read that in Fit for Life. Well, yeah, that's exactly, and it's worked for me forever. Lunch is usually a green smoothie, and when people see me drink my green smoothies, they go, wow, that's really green. Yeah. I get, I don't know, a couple pounds of no, yeah, I get 2 pounds of bananas usually, right around there in my smoothies, and a pound of romaine, half pound of romaine lettuce, and a half pound of kale. And lots of times, whatever else is in there. Right now, grapes. We have a refrigerator full of grapes. So I don't have the luxury that you have, Jeanette, of tropical fruits everywhere, all around. I used to live close to where you do now. I used to live at South Beach.
Where are you now?
I'm in Utah. Very
Utah.
in southern Utah, down by Zion National Park. Beautiful places, both of them. Anyway, so I usually after a workout. By the way, I work out before lunch, heavy weights. So again, I'm earning my meals. And I usually, especially right now, I do a lot of sweating. So even though I have a very water complete diet, that I probably won't need any more water, but if I sweat, I feel like I need more water. So I also get some water in there too. Then I usually run before dinner. And my dinner is a salad. My salads consist usually of about 2 pounds of greens or more. So it's not this little tiny salad that you see at the restaurant. No, this is a salad. This is an entree, the full thing. And then we get to put some vegetables, some tomatoes, things like that in. And then I put a dressing on it. Dressings are always berries. Sometimes berries and oranges. Oranges, if they may be a dessert as well. But usually about somewhere around 10 ounces of berries. And then I put a little chia seed in with that. And some other seeds like pumpkin or sunflower or something like that, and blend them all together. The acid from the oranges and the berries can be help break down the fats from the seeds. I don't do too many nuts. I used to do some, but I find that seeds have a little bit more of the nutrition that I'm looking for. So I go with that. And basically pour that over the salad and munch down. I do chronometer, so I know what I'm getting. And I also test blood tests and urine tests to know what I'm absorbing and utilizing. And this is what I recommend for a lot of the people I work with. And so I feel like I have to do that as well. Otherwise, I'm reminded of an old story about Gandhi in India. A lady came up to him with her child and said, "Tell my child not to eat sugar." And he said, "Come back next week." And so they came back next week and he said, "Don't eat sugar." She says, "Why couldn't you have said that before?" He says, "I was eating sugar and I couldn't do it." So I'm that way. I don't ever suggest things that I would not do. I may not do them, but I also suggest things that I would only do.
Yes. Thank you so much for that, Tim. So I'm getting a lot of questions recently because, well, Brian Clement came out with an interview where he said that, fruit sugar acts the same way as processed sugar in the body. It feeds cancer cells. And there's many other people that say this, right? Not just him,
Yeah.
but he happens to be raw or 90% raw. So, my audience is confused. And, I wanted to ask somebody like you, what are your thoughts on this? Does fruit sugar feed cancer? Is it as, dangerous for our health?
Okay. Brian's your friend. I don't
Oh,
talk about people. I talk about science. Okay.
thank you.
So let's talk about the science. There's some really magnificent science done out of Boston U about cancer as a metabolic disease. What does that mean? That means things like diabetes are a metabolic disease, cancer also. And there's others doing some of the work, but really fantastic work coming out of Boston. But they also say that in this, that sugar feeds cancer cells, tumors, things like that. And they're absolutely right. But they didn't dig deep enough. This is the big thing. When you actually look at it, sugar can feed cancer, sure. But every time it is above the sugar levels that are known as healthy. So in other words, if you have a fasting blood glucose, and I should be using glucose because that's a more proper word. When I say sugar, people kind of think, "Oh, you mean any sugar?" No, we're talking glucose here. But when you have a fasting blood glucose that's over 110, over 120, you have too high of a fasting blood glucose. Now, some diabetics can have 300 or more, and usually they're ending up in the hospital with that. But what we're seeing is when there's too much sugar, then it's so available that everything's taken in. Where the rest of the cells are having insulin resistance, and so the sugar isn't getting in. Now there's the situation. So in reality, the sugar in the bloodstream or insulin resistance is not a sugar problem. It's a fat problem. When you go into the science, the cell, when fat gets into the cell, it starts a relay of one enzyme to another enzyme that actually blocks insulin from attaching to the insulin receptor of the cell. Now, the sugar can't get in because the insulin, which is the person going to knocking the door, or you're from New York, you've seen doormen sitting in front of hotels that open up the door and do stuff. Hey, that's what insulin is. Insulin is the doorman to allow the sugar into you, into your cell. And so if it's blocked and it, it's like the doorman tries to open the door, wait a minute, it's locked. I can't let you in. Now we got the situation going on. And so actually a high sugar is a fat problem. And a lot of the people going, oh, fruit has got sugar, so it's going to feed cancer. So let's give you fat. So a high fat diet is actually the cause of the problem, because I'm sure you have already checked your fasting blood glucose, and you eat tons of fruit. Yeah. And your sugar is normal. Now, a little side thing, if you're eating a high fat diet, your blood glucose level is also normal. Wait a minute here. So a high fat type diet still has a normal blood glucose. That means the body still needs it, and it's going to operate if you give it to it or not. Now, the thing is, the body can turn fat, the body can turn protein into sugar. It just takes a whole lot more effort. So let's give the body some easement and just give it some sugar via fruit. And there is a ton of studies, and I do mean a ton of studies, showing fruit really discourages cancer from growing. And when you do have it, that it actually keeps it from spreading mitosis and all these other things. Fruit is amazingly great for those with cancer. In fact, they found that Indian gooseberry, alma, and the antioxidants are just as good for several cancers as chemotherapy at beating the cancer down. This tells me this is where I want to go. I want to eat healthy instead of worry about getting some chemo. So
Yeah, thank you, Tim. And I recently read an article that said that the sun kills cancer cells. Have you heard this? And do you believe this is true as well?
yes and no. If you're getting proper sun, and if I forget, bring me back to proper sun, okay? And not burning. Number one, your vitamin D levels will rise. And vitamin D and cancer, vitamin D just makes cancer so hard for cancer to thrive. Because one of the ways we control cancer is the immune function of the body. And because I say immune function, most people would say immune system. I'm sorry. Every cell in the body has things to control its immunity to other things. It is a whole body process, so I don't go for this system. Anyway, so vitamin D helps the body's immune function, and that's one of the ways how the body takes care of cells that are starting to go awry. And so that's the start. You regenerate CoQ10 with sunshine. Sunshine helps glutathione, your body's master antioxidant that it makes. So we have several things going here for us that keep the cancer down. We all have cancer cells in us all the time. It's how the body reacts to these cancer cells before they get going crazy that makes the difference.
Thank you. I want to ask, I have so many questions from the audience. They want to know a lot of things, but I really want to know real quick, what are some daily habits that you do, Tim, to stay so calm and have such a peaceful demeanor about you? What are some daily practices?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not so sure I'm very calm. I get excited sometimes when I talk about these things.
No, you're very passionate, but you have a very calming aura. So I'm curious what you do daily to maintain that.
Meditation.
Oh, yes. How long?
It every day varies.
Mm,
But probably somewhere around an hour a day.
wow.
But I do several different types. I do a breathing meditation, which is for specifically heart rate variability. It connects the heart and the brain. And the heart has its own brain. There's a whole nervous system that it controls, and it does it independently of the brain. So you want that to be in the right place. So in breathing, what I'm trying to do is take the nervous system and calm it down. And that works really wonderful. I do another meditation of just relaxing. Way back in med school, I took a class on biofeedback. So that's where all this comes from way back then. And that's where I learned to meditate. And they have a biofeedback system called galvanic. It works on the galvanic electricity of your skin. And when the skin is tight, it gives off a different response of galvanic electricity. And when it's relaxed, it gives off a different response. And so one of the first things they do in biofeedback is put you on what's known as a GSR, galvanic response. And so I learned how to relax. And I find a lot of people just don't know how to relax. And this is a way that you teach yourself. You're not going to somebody else. You're learning to teach yourself to relax. And I did some really wonderful things that changed my life back in 1983. So I really like that. I also do a contemplation meditation. And it can be pretty much anything, why am I here to, what do we want to eat the next few days, planning ahead. And it's about quieting down and relaxing and thinking things through. When I'm in relaxing, I'm actually trying to stop my brain from working, stop my thoughts. And then the other thing is to contemplate, what's going on. Gabriel Cousins wrote a really good book about the sevenfold peace of the Essenes. And the sevenfold peace is strictly about contemplation, about how do I deal and how does my community deal with me, both ways, how things work. And so it's all very beautiful. Anyway, so that's why I do what I do.
Thank you. I have a lot of questions from my audience about supplements. Tim, do you take any? Do you believe in supplements?
I don't have a problem with supplements. I have a problem with stupid supplements. Let me get to that first part before I get to me personally. There are things that people do. If you're on a junk food diet, you think, oh, I'll take this one a day multivitamin and I will be fine. Well, I'm sorry, synthetic vitamins don't work. That's the epitome of stupid supplements. There are times when people are not getting their needs met nutritionally by food. And at that point, supplementing, if you can prove that there's a problem, why not fix it? As for me, I don't tell people what supplements I do take, except for one. I take B12. I didn't take B12 for 2 decades. And it caused neurological damage. I believed the thought, there's studies out there saying, you know what, we make all the B12 we need in our gut. The thing is, okay, the B12, the bacteria that make B12 are in our colon. Colon is not a real absorbing organ of ours that everything just kind of goes through. The B12 is not, the science says B12 is not absorbed from the colon. Another thing is we don't have the intrinsic factor down in our colon that we do in our stomach. And so it's harder for the body to take it in. Intrinsic factor is when we get B12 into our stomach, the intrinsic factor mixes with the B12 so it can be absorbed. Otherwise, it's blocked. I have several situations that I will have to deal with. Eating raw has given me a life that I never had. I'm all for it, but I think that we need to make sure that we're getting our needs met. And B12 was one that I did not get. And so when we see that, then there's a situation that needs to be. I was just doing a routine homocysteine. My homocysteine, normal homocysteine should be about 4 to 7, somewhere in there. Ideally, most doctors say, okay, 10 is okay. But I had not 4, I had 46. It was the highest that most of the doctors that reviewed my work had ever seen. So there was definitely some nerve damage, and it has affected a lot of things in my life. And so I definitely recommend people at least get tested. And the test that I recommend is a B12 assay, a homocysteine, and a methylmalonic acid. And they say, well, I can just do a methylmalonic acid urine test. No, it doesn't necessarily say everything. I recommend the 3, and it works very well. Now, we have a lot of people in the raw world who say, don't test for B12. I have to disagree. The big thing is that if you're taking a lot of folate in, vitamin B6, no, B3, excuse me, and the folate can actually mask your symptoms. So both are needed to control your homocysteine. They both are needed. But because of high folate, you can actually mask your symptoms until it's way too late. And if you wait till you have symptoms, they're permanent, people. I'm not going to tell you anything other than that. They're permanent. And you can do some things to make them less disastrous. But in reality, if you're waiting for symptoms, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, well, this is so confusing, honestly. I mean, I've been raw for 13 years, Tim, and I still am confused because there's so much conflicting information on the internet. You know, I interviewed someone recently who's been raw for about 30 years too. He's B12 deficient. He says he's fine, and he doesn't believe in it. And I don't know. I don't know the answers anymore. So I really want to say thank you for sharing that, because you have experience. Is there any, last question about B12 is there any natural ways that people can, because some people really don't want to supplement. Is there any ways that they can increase their B12 without taking supplements?
Increasing or getting what you need can be a couple different things. T. Colin Campbell has shown that B12 exists on plants. Now, the thing is, most of us are not farmers, and our plants are coming from the farm. But to get from the farm to here, it takes a lot, and the B12 degrades rather quickly. It is a bacterial waste matter. And so, number one, you have to have good, healthy soils that have the bacteria in it. If you're getting regular produce, commercial produce, there's no chance of getting B12 on there. So if you're gardening and you're doing organic gardening, then you probably are getting some. Whether you're getting enough, I do not know. Again, test, find out. It's not that big of a deal. Now, a lot of the people who, and please stop me if I say things that you don't want to hear, okay? Because I'm going to get into something here that may be a little bit I might be stepping on somebody's toes here.
Okay.
Some people are taking things like spirulina, blue-green algae, and chlorella. Spirulina and blue-green algae are not algae. Please understand this. They are not algae. They are cyanobacteria. Cyanobacteria is where they also make the cyanocobalamin that some people take. I think that there's been some idea that there is some properties in the cyanocobalamin that is not really good. But I know in the spirulina and the blue-green algae that they actually have pseudo B12, not real, and it gets into your cell receptor and it blocks It does that. But they also have something, trying to remember it because there's so many, phenylethylamine. They have phenylethylamine, which is a stimulant. And that stimulant can actually keep you from having tremors. And it can keep your brain working very well. I mean, one of the things that they keep telling us about cognitive decline is drink coffee. Well, the thing is, the coffee makes you feel good now. And the phenylethylamine makes you feel good now, but it drives the nerve cells to a point. It's kind of like racing your engine in your car. And you keep racing your engine in your car to a point where you're going to blow a gasket, people. So they also have lipopolysaccharides. Lipopolysaccharides, otherwise known as endotoxins, can eat away at the myelin sheath and cause nerve damage. But because of the components together, we don't see the symptoms of that until it's too late. So as you can tell, I'm not really big on algae. Now, I'm going to go back to chlorella. I say, okay, chlorella. Chlorella does have a better B12 situation there. But they found that chlorella does not come by itself. It always has some cyanobacteria attached to it. So, and that cyanobacteria is causing problems. Yes, there's a good B12 in chlorella, but you also have the stimulant effects of the phenylethylamine. And to tell you what phenylethylamine is, I'm going to give you a demonstration. For ADHD, one of the drugs is Adderall. Adderall has the two main ingredients are synthetic phenylethylamines. So basically, blue-green algae are basically giving you what Adderall gives people on ADHD. And we know that we can do better. So
Whoa.
that's my 2 cents.
Whoa. I definitely did not know that. And I'm sure many people watching didn't either. Yeah, there's so much we don't know. And the more we learn, the more we don't even know, the more we realize.
What I found in some of this learning is
Yes.
go back to the basics. Fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, some sprouts.
Yes.
Make sure you're getting your nutrition. And that's not, I mean, 100 years ago, it was hard to know how much nutrition you're actually getting. Today, it's so easy. There are so many food diary apps out there. Just choose one. I like Chronometer, but, choose one that works for you. And you don't have to do it every day. I do it every day. Make sure everything is on the up and up. But if you get a good idea that you're getting everything, and okay, then you have a good idea that you're doing better than people going to McDonald's. That's a good thing to know.
Yes. Yeah. And such a great point too. Even if you're not perfect, you're doing better than you used to, and you're doing better than most of the population. So let's all take a deep breath and be great, be proud. So
yeah, absolutely.
Dr. Tim, I have a million more questions, but I have to go, and our hour went like this. And so maybe possibly we can do a part 2. I'm hoping, maybe. Yes.
Great.
Thank you so much. Because yeah, the hour went really fast and I have so many more things I want to ask you. So I want to say thank you so very much to everyone. If you asked a question, I wrote it down. So I do have all the questions, and I will schedule a part 2 with Dr. Tim. And if you want to know more about Tim, I'm going to leave the link to his website down below. Please check it out. You can connect with him. You can work with him. You can ask him your question one-on-one. You can get your individual needs met, because, not everyone is going to thrive eating exactly the way that I eat or Tim eats, right? We need to, we're all different, and we all have different needs, and we're living different lifestyles too.
Can I
Right?
say a little bit quick thing?
Please.
I am not somebody who is somebody to go to on a general rule about what do I eat. We have so many wonderful people like you that can help you in, making sure that they're getting some good things and some help in getting through the hard times. What I do is I take care of the serious problems. If you have a chronic disease, if you have a terminal disease, these are the things that I delve into. And because of that, I do a lot of research, and a lot of people go, that's more than I want. And that's okay. We have a community that you have available to share. It's something that I never had when I started out. And this is great. Now, if you do want to do the really in-depth work, that's what I do. But I do a lot of expensive testing. I do a lot of work, and I have to charge for it. So.
Yes. And did you say you have a community?
No, I don't have a community. We have, come on, how many people out there that are doing such great work, like you?
No, because I was excited. I wanted to join your community, Tim. So I didn't.
No, I wish I had the time for such things. My website originally, and it still is for me to write articles on specific situations, whether it be eating meat and what that means, to having autoimmune disease or having cancer. And these things this is why I have a website. I can help. You can contact me to help people. If you just have a couple questions, I may not get to them because I'm just so swamped. So please understand that I want to, but not even my website says I try to, but it doesn't always happen.
Yes, we
Now,
understand.
another thing, on my social media, Facebook and those things, I'm still trying to put together a YouTube channel, but it's a long way in the future. But on there, I try to give you some of the newest research studies that can affect the population. So that's basically what I have on social media, is the new studies. And when this comes up, this interview, I will have that up there for everybody to know that, that I know this is live, but when it gets onto a permanent video on your channel, then I'll have it up and with a tag to go here, watch this. So there you go.
Thank you so much. Yes. And I will leave all the links below to connect with Tim on Facebook, his website. And yes, thank you very, very much, Tim. I really appreciate your time and your energy and your knowledge and your wisdom and your experience, living a lifestyle that some people think is not possible still, and you're proving that it is. And you're very fit too. You're very fit. So
try to be.
That's inspiring, so thank you very much, Tim. And I will contact you to schedule part 2.
Great.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone. Thank you for watching. Have a beautiful, beautiful fruity day. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Tim.